Hey Sunflowers, it's the Homesteading Contessa. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about 3 mistakes I made at the beginning of being a beginner gardener. Come along for the ride. Alright Sunflowers, so let's get right into it. So back in 2020 when I started my pandemic garden, where I wanted to do a hobby just to kill time because we were bored at home, I decided to start a garden. So when I started my garden, it was this small little square that I put bricks around. I bought me some good soil, and I bought all the seeds that I can think of because I was thinking of, I want to eat this, I want to eat that, I want to grow this, I want to grow that. And boy, that was my first mistake, not understanding that there are grow zones that you need to know in order to know what best plants during the certain months and certain seasons, so you can know what is basically what flourishes in your town. So everybody has a grow zone, and my grow zone is 8B. Now, how do you find out your grow zone? You can get on the internet and you can type in your city and state and say, what is my grow zone? And it'll tell you what your grow zone is. You can go to USDA online website, and it can also tell you. Or you can get your handy dandy almanac, and that's like a guide to let you know when to plant, when to fish, the weather. All of those things take a play when deciding what to grow. So like I said, I didn't know my grow zone. So in this little bitty bed, I had tomatoes, jalapenos, I had watermelon, I had corn, lettuce. And when I tell you it was about this size, it was not big at all. And I was like, okay, this is gonna work. Well, needless to say, not everything survived in that garden. I think I had zucchini in there too, bell pepper. But I did, the tomatoes survived, the jalapenos, and the bell peppers. I did get a couple watermelons, but the rest died because it was overcrowded. Some cases it's good to overcrowd when you're like planting companion plants, like if you want to put some Swiss chard in there, maybe some collard greens, some companion flowers. We're going to get to those flowers later on in the video, but that was my mistake number 1, not knowing my grow zone. So the second mistake that I made, over watering. When I tell you I live in Texas, so you see the sun is beaming down on me, and you know, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing because it's always hot in Texas, but I love Texas and there's no place I'd rather be. But understanding that it's hot here, I always thought that my garden was thirsty for water. So every time I came outside, I was with my watering can and my water hose, and I was watering down that little bitty garden. And I like to tell you my mistakes, but I also like to give you some solutions. First, you know, number 1, I didn't know my grow zone, so I told you how you can find that. Second was I overwatered. So let me tell you how you don't overwater, and let me tell you how you can know that you overwatered. One of your signs would be that you would have yellow flowers. You would have like yellow leaves. That's a sign of overwatering. One way you can check that is take your pointer finger, dip it in the soil, and then do it about 1 inch deep. If it's moist, then you don't have to water. If it's not, then you want to go ahead and water. And like me, I had a problem with overwatering, but like some of my friends, they had a problem underwatering. So what are signs of underwatering? You see cracks in your soil. You also, your leaves, they won't be yellow, they'll curl up and they'll get shriveled, maybe even cracker-like, you know, cracker-like. Same thing, do a finger test. If it's dry, you need to water it. The best times to water is in the morning before the sun comes completely out, or at night when the sun has went down. Why are those watering times good? It's because when the sun is just beaming at its max like it is now, it's going to retain and take up a whole lot of water. There are sources you can use during this time to help preserve your garden. Like you can buy these little water globe things. I got these at the Dollar Tree, and I put water in there, stick them in the ground, and you can put it in your plants that require more water. So how it works, as it lose water, it'll just start self-watering. You also can make these using like a plastic water bottle, soda bottle, 2 liter, 20 ounce, 16, whatever you have will work. Some people, like myself, we are trying to live a simple life where we are trying to use everything that we have around us. I know it's trending a lot nowadays to do farming and homesteading, but if you think about it, this was just a way of life. You know, this is how our grandma and grandfathers did it. They had their own farms, they had raised their own meat, and they definitely utilized the things that they had around them. So don't overwater, don't underwater. When I tell you I went out to my garden, and when I saw just one wrong move can just change your day when gardening. I went out there and I was like Florida Evans on Good Times. When James died, I was just like, I was so upset, and I wanted to quit, because you know, you put all that work in, you think that you're doing right, and then you end up killing plants. But you learn and you grow from your mistakes. You grow from them. So I embrace you to make mistakes. Why? Because you're going to learn from them. Watch videos like this, make your own videos, and I always like to tell everybody, do your own research. This series right here can be just a small part of your research. Somebody who has experienced mistakes of their own and sharing with you what they've done to be able to overcome those problems. So we talked about grow zones and over and under watering. What was the third thing I did wrong? Well, I didn't plant enough flowers. At first I didn't have no flowers, and flowers is going to bring your pollinators, your bees. And people, we don't like bees. You know, if you're not a gardener, you probably don't like bees. If you're a gardener, you still may not like bees, because you think, oh, they're gonna sting me. But I've actually loved bees now. That's weird, right? And I'm not talking about Queen Bee Beyonce. I'm talking about bees out here in nature. Why? Because the bees help pollinate the garden. Without bees, we would die, because they are what pollinate the garden, and without pollination, our gardens could not grow. You would have to hand pollinate. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Or you would have to resort to GMO foods, which is genetically modified in a lab, you know? So you don't get that natural, that beam from the sun. The garden works as the sun with the soil, with the insects. You got beneficial bugs like ladybugs, you have your bees. I mean, everything worked to make things grow. God knew what he was doing when he did these things, and we just got to trust the process, and we have to have patience, and we have to have a little faith as the size of a mustard seed, and we will see that everything will come into fruition. You just got to believe, and you got to take action, because faith without work is dead. So look, that scripture right there. So if you are starting your garden, I want you to first look up your grow zone. Then decide if you're going to be a container gardener. You may be in a rental space like me, and I have a raised bed. I have some 10-gallon bags, and I have some 5-gallon grow bags. When I get my permanent residence, I'm going to definitely have stuff in the ground. I'm going to have raised beds, because I'm not getting no younger. I do have some watermelon in the ground at this place, and when I move, I'll just dig it up, throw some grass seeds down, and grass seeds grow so fast. We know grass grow all the time because we don't like to mow our yard, right? So I will definitely, that's what I'm praying for, that I can find me a nice little homestead. All I ask for is an acre, half an acre. You know, I'm not greedy. I just want something that me and my family could live off of. We can grow fresh food, raise our food, and I also want to give back. I want to have me, my homestead is going to be profitable too. I'm going to be selling fresh produce, fresh meats, and I'm going to be, you know, doing things that make you happy, like selling flowers. But let's get back to those flowers. I planted, when I started my garden, you know, like I told you, I didn't have no flowers. So the only bees that came were random bees. But when I went to Walmart, I got me a plant. I painted up me this pot. I put the flowers in there, and when I tell you it started attracting bees, and that little bitty garden that I overplanted, it flourished. When I tell you that little garden, if a pro would have seen me, they probably would have been like, girl, nothing's gonna grow in that garden. You got them fighting like the wrestling royale. You know, they're fighting over the water. The roots are fighting over the water. But the ones that survive, you know how they say only the strong survive? They survive, and not only did they survive, they were delicious. So, but I hope you take this video and, you know, write down some notes. Tell me what some of the common mistakes you made. And, you know, I told you how to find your grow zone, how to check for water. I told you how to bring in the pollinators. Another thing I want to add too, to retain moisture, you want to use like a mulch. You can use straw. Some people don't use anything, that's fine too. But like I said, if you water in the morning, water at night, depending on if you're like me in Texas, you may have to water sometimes during the daytime. Sometimes I come and I'll just wet the bottom. I won't wet the leaves, because certain plants don't like to be wet on the leaves, like tomatoes. They hate to be wet, you know. It can burn the leaves, but sometimes with the heat it dries up pretty fast. So what else I wanted to tell you guys? Just do you in the garden, because everybody has their way of doing things. There's no one size fits all. Embrace mistakes, learn from your mistakes, and try new things, because you might come up with something that you can come back and tell me. And I'm always learning. I love to learn. I'm like a child. I'm humble. I'm always willing to listen. That's how you grow. When you think you know everything, that's when you stop growing. And I definitely want to expand my community. So if you love gardening, if you think about doing a garden, if you have a farm and you're a pro at it, definitely give me a follow. If you do content, let me know in the comments and I'll follow you back. I do engage. I like to watch it. I became this person who I have to pull myself away sometimes from social media and YouTube, because I get on there and I'm just watching content, and you need to do things in order. You know, God first, family second, and the rest can be added. So I try to keep things in its perspective. But YouTube is definitely a great platform, because you can kind of control what you're watching. So you can put in that good content, you can watch good content, and you can kind of stay away from the bad things. So I hope you learned something from this video. There's going to be more like it. If you like this video, let me know, and tell me what some of your mistakes were in the garden. If you did make some mistakes, let me know what you plan on growing this year. And if you don't mind, drop your grow zone in the comments as well. Bye for now.